Fred, welcome to Drunk Comics. Cheers.
Salud.
What are you drinking tonight?
Well, I am a fan of all things British, and so this is a proper gin and tonic.
Nice. Love that.
Yes.
I actually had a proper British guest a few weeks ago. So,
Proper.
yes, I have a blue UV and lemonade, which blue for the tick seems
There
appropriate.
you go. That's appropriate. I like it. Yep.
One of my favorite drinks. So, it wasn't completely planned, but it works. So, where are you from?
Originally, I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and yeah, my family has lived in Western Pennsylvania since the Revolutionary War.
Oh, wow.
Again, being fond of all things British, I did one of the. I have an uncle who's traced the family ancestry, and it turns out we're originally from Scotland. And if you know Scottish history, the Battle of Culladen, where Bonnie Prince Charlie tried to get back the throne of Scotland from the English and failed miserably. Our clan, though, was smart and sided with the English and held the left flank. And so we got some land in Northern Ireland, didn't like that, and traded in for some land in Western Pennsylvania, which back then was still the 13 colonies. And here we are. So,
as someone with Irish descent, I take offense to them not wanting the Irish land. Damn it.
sorry. Well, it was Northern Ireland, so we probably didn't want to take the land from you. So that's probably why we moved on. So sorry.
I will forgive that. So how'd you end up in Wisconsin?
Oh, that's a long story. Well, yeah, it's interesting because I joked that my life's in a bit of a rerun. My parents divorced before I can even remember. I was like 2 or 3 years old, and my mom remarried, and my stepfather was at the Medical College of Wisconsin. So we actually lived for a little brief period, Germantown and then Waukesha till about 1979, when they decided to move to Florida, the west coast of Florida. So we moved to the west coast of Florida, a little town called Venice, which happens to hold the distinction of having the oldest average age of any non-designated retirement town in the country. So it isn't any wonder that it became a geriatric and went to geriatric. Here we are back in Wisconsin. The circle. I'm just waiting now for something to send me to Florida, though I don't really want to go back to Florida. So hopefully the circle ends here. But that's, in a nutshell, the convoluted life of Frederick James.
For my sake, I hope you stay here because I like having you local, even though I don't get to see you this year because, freaking 20.
Well, my kid's in school, so we're going to be here at least another 4 years or so. So we'll see. So.
And I did not realize you had a PhD, so I'm going to say you're probably my most educated guest. You are overqualified to be on Drunk Comics. We're going to cheers to that.
My wife says I have more degrees than a thermometer, so I actually went back and got another master's, so I actually do have. If I win the lottery tomorrow, I'm going back to school. I'm one of these bizarre people that just, if I could be a student the rest of my life, grad school is an addictive substance in my book. I would just literally just start getting.
What's your other master's degree in?
Healthcare administration.
Okay.
So I got that online from the University of Maryland. So.
All right. So how'd you get into comics?
I remember when I was a kid, you're growing up in the 70s and 80s, and I remember having, when I was a real little kid in the 70s, there was like, and I wish I still had it because it's probably worth a bloody fortune, but it was an extra large size. I remember it said "Many Foes Have the Hulk" on the front of it. I got to look this thing up. I mean, the thing too was huge. It wasn't the standard size comic. It was an extra big comic. I don't know what they're called, but it had the
The
Hulk.
oversized ones or whatever they called it at the
Yeah,
time.
maybe. I'm not I admit I'm not a comics expert. I know probably you and probably some other folks have been on there are like, super comics expert. I am not
I'm
a super
not a
comic
comics
expert. I don't know what that's
expert. I
called.
just talk about them while drunk.
Yeah, anyway. But I remember he faced Havoc, and I can't remember the leader, and I can't remember the third foe, but I remember really rereading and really liking that comic book. But I remember my parents were kind of, they were comic snobs. Let's just be blunt, and then your generation, I think, comics were something that, you know, um, your high class educated people did not read comics. But anyway, so I remember this being my sort of my favorite kind. Again, I wish I still had it. I don't know what happened to it. So my next memory was in late middle school. A friend of mine at the time had started, and we were into GI Joe, the toy line on TV, but it was also a comic, and it, in my mind, one of the greatest comics of all time. Larry,
Talk about it.
no, I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm talking too much. What did you say?
I'm inviting you to come back to talk about it.
Yeah, we debated about this. I didn't know whether I wanted to do GI Joe or the Tick, and we'll talk about the Tick in a bit. But so I'll be brief on GI Joe. But really outstanding comic. Really, in my mind as a kid, I was used to comics sort of as written for kids, but really the GI Joe comic was, I wouldn't say adult. There weren't adult themes in it. There was no sex or anything like that, or grotesque violence, but the plot lines and things like that. I remember, some of the episodes were just really outstanding. And again, I'll save that for another episode maybe. But I remember, really looking forward to going over to his house and reading the latest GI Joe comics, because they were just awesome and really well written, and so on. Once I got on my own and in college, my sophomore year of college, one of my roommates was really into comics and got me into comics. His name was Pete.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Pete. Yes, Pete, watching this. Thank you. And then I think what kind of started to sort of irk me was the Infinity Gauntlet series. Okay. You kept collecting, we'd go to the comic book store. By the way, the comic book store in Urbana-Champaign, literally the guy who ran it, the manager, was an exact clone of the comic book store owner in The Simpsons. He even looked like him. I swear to God, Matt Groening must have went to UIUC, because literally the same guy was there. I swear to you. Okay. It's the same tone and everything else. Okay. But he kind of knew us because we were sort of the regulars that would come in and buy. So he was pretty cool with us. But again, he was quite a character in his own right. And I remember, you had to get all these different comments, and then all of a sudden I just started, and then the ending. Okay. And maybe some people like the ending, no offense, but the movies did so much better job. I mean, it was such a letdown to me. I mean, I was just like, you got to be kidding me. Okay. Silver Surfer comes and swipes the damn thing. Okay. Woohoo. That took a lot of,
like basically the money.
Yeah.
Here comes it.
Yeah. And, so that got me a bit frustrated. I remember then going to the comic book store and seeing, and I might still have it here. Which was the first one that I bought? Let's see here.
That's impressive that survived.
I still have it, yeah, and some of the pages are falling apart, but this beauty. Okay. Yes.
And that's what we're going to be talking about today, right?
This is what we're going to be talking about. And I think it appealed to me because at the time, comic books were just it was just starting to become like way too serious. I remember Dr. Demento once said about Weird Al Yankovic's music that what do you say, it punctured the pomposity of pop music.
I love Weird Al.
The Tick punctured the pomposity of comics at that time. I mean, it was kind of what do they call it? The year of the historian, the second golden age of comics or something like that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, literally, we were all flocking to get the latest issue of X-Men and what have you, or Batman or the Sandman came out then too, and all my friends loved the Sandman. I thought it was depressing. I needed to go for a long walk after reading a Sandman comic, but they ate it up. I got the Tick, and I'm reading this particular one. This is one of my favorite ones of all time. This is the one that sends up Batman. Okay.
Nice.
Basically, the Tick finds and runs into at this club for superheroes another superhero who's also called the Tick. They fight. This Tick wins, and so this Tick gets all of this Tick stuff. And this Tick is like Batman, okay? He's got a Tick cave. He's got a Tick mobile. He's got a Tick everything, okay? It just sends up Batman like nothing else, and it's just it. No offense, I know a lot of Batman fans.
None taken.
Yeah, and Nathan, Batman. I know you love Batman. Don't take offense. You're one of the good ones, okay? You're putting you on this side of the equation, all right? But there's a lot of Batman fans. I'm sorry that take Batman just way too seriously, okay? I mean, and this was just like a breath of fresh air. I mean, this is like, it's like, oh.
When they understand that they have to have some air of ridiculousness. They have to.
It just like, it was just like a release. Like, it just, everything was just so tense. You're always waiting for the next episode of the X-Men comic. And they were just like, it was almost like they were leading you. They were stringing you along, which obviously they should. That's how they make their money. And then now comes the Tick with this, like, this like kind of cuts the line or pops the balloon, and all the air gets let out, and it's just like refreshing. It's like you just look at yourself as, this is ridiculous, and
delightful,
but delightfully so. And that's the great thing about the Tick, is that he's this innocent doof. I mean, he's an idiot. Let's be blunt. I love the guy, but he's an idiot. He is. He's an idiot who's nigh invulnerable, who, just, but you just got to love him. And he just, what's the other thing that comics love more than anything else? The origin story.
Oh, for sure.
The Tick doesn't have one. Still to this day, you have no bloody idea how this thing was made. How did it Tick get his powers?
I
don't know. Do you know? You don't know.
He just
falls out of a building in a straitjacket in the first episode. Literally. He says he's in a straitjacket in this room and says, I don't want to be here anymore. Rip. Bursts out of the building. That's it. That's his origin.
Oh my God.
Beautiful.
That's the anti to every hero story.
Yes.
That. It's perfect.
It is, and it's just beautiful, and it's what I love about it, because it's kind of like life, in life, at times you just get so obsessed and you take everything so seriously, and you're waiting for whatever the equivalent of the next X-Men comic book is, and then something just slaps you in the face and says, that's not what life's, let some of the air out,
And life doesn't always explain itself. Sometimes life is a big blue Tick falling out, holding in a straitjacket, going, I don't want to be here. And there's no explanation.
And
I'm getting deep. Like faux deep, but
I'm sorry, what? I didn't hear what you said.
I'm getting deep. And then I said it's really faux deep, but I'm getting white girl drunk deep. So what happens after he falls out of the building in the straitjacket? Like, does
I think he finds Arthur, and again, I think that gets back to really the heart. I mean, that's the other thing about the Tick is it's not just, you know, anybody can do a send up, but a send up with a heart, and that's really where he finds Arthur, and that relationship really is the heart of the comic, and it's really, when you think about it, it's the heart of life too. Your relationships with other people. This is what you get for being a psychologist on the show, by the way. This is your fault.
I love that you
Where it
were
gets
my
deep-
second psychologist.
deep
to be on the show.
analysis. You're getting this free of charge.
Thank you. You're not gonna send me a bill?
No.
Yes.
But again, it's this, and here's Arthur, who's an accountant, real straight up. Of course, he dons a moth outfit and goes trying to fight crime or whatever. But in some ways, he's sort of the analogy of the typical comic book consumer, and then here comes the Tick as the wrecking ball that just knocks things into next year. So it's it's the,
next year.
no, I'm sorry, I mentioned next year. Sorry, won't mention next year.
No, it's okay. I don't think next year's gonna be any better, anyways. Spoilers.
Knocks it into the next universe, whatever.
Go on.
There you go.
I got serious for a second. I may not even edit this till next year with how slow I am at editing.
But it sends up a lot of other things too. Like the other thing too was like in the early 90s, everything was ninjas. Okay, it was like just add ninjas. All right. I mean, they took poor Betsy Braddock. Okay. Remember Betsy Braddock?
Yes.
Of Excalibur, Psylocke, had the nice hood, everything else. Okay, all nice and British. Oh no, we got to send her to Japan, wipe her brain, and turn her into a ninja.
Turn her into a Japanese lady.
A Japanese ninja, yeah.
And then pretend that's not racist.
There you go.
We're not going to touch on that.
No, let's not go there. All right, we'll not go there. But my point being is that ninjas were big in the 90s. You had to have ninjas, all right?
Big.
Even Wolverine had to go back to, everybody had to go back to Japan and become a ninja, even Wolverine.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love ninjas as much as the next girl.
I mean, who doesn't love a good ninja? I mean, getting back to G.I. Joe, which we'll talk about later, we have Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes and all those folks. But the Tick, it's funny that they just send that up entirely. They had this whole, like, what is it, Night of a Million Ninjas or something like that, where like literally have ninjas holding a little leaf or fig saying hedge, move along, we're a hedge,
It's perfection.
Yeah, again, it was a breath of fresh air, like, literally a slap across the face saying, look, the comic consumer, wake up, smell some coffee.
My whole point about this show is that comics should be fun. Like, they can be serious. They absolutely, and they can make social statements. And there are some great serious comics. But comics should be fun too.
Yes.
And I love the fun comics so much. The fun, ridiculous comics are my favorites. So, anyways, go on.
No, and I agree. Like, again, the Savage Land series,
They're freaking dinosaurs.
Yeah.
How could it be fun?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, the other aspect too, which we can also discuss, is the fact that it's also to get Rogue and the other characters into torn up, skimpy costumes to put on the front cover to appeal to
Cheesecake art. But I will always, whether right or wrong, I will always laugh that the Savage Land meant, oh my God, my costume ripped off. Like, how? How? You're in the jungle.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean your costume ripped to shreds. Did the dinosaurs rip to shreds? I don't know.
A lot of thorny plants in the jungle. You just,
I guess. I don't know. I still love that costume. I adore that costume. Like I said, I did that costume. I have a soft spot. Like
Yeah,
while I was doing it, I'm laughing to myself looking at this horse pictures. I'm like, this is freaking ridiculous.
yeah,
But
yeah. It looks. Yeah, I agree.
but also like it's again, I looked at the art and even though like she wasn't ever shrinking away, it wasn't like some comic art you see women in the skimpy costumes where they're like tied up and looking weak. Like, no,
Yeah,
she looked like strong as fuck.
yeah. Agreed. And again, I think that's it's interesting you mentioned that because the Tick actually has a character based on oh god, I can't remember her name. Who's the character in the Daredevil comics with the
Electra.
Elektra? They call her Oedipus.
Ah, accurate.
Yes,
On the nose.
yes, exactly. It's
And
again,
as a psychologist, you have to appreciate that.
they hit the nail kind of on the head. So it's just like they literally she's a complete send off of that character down to even I think instead of red it's yellow, but literally has the whole get up and the sai or whatever those things are called with the three-bladed
Yep, I was right.
ninja weapons or what have you. But
So is she like the love interest?
I'm sorry,
Is she like the love interest?
I don't think so. I think she's more just a kick ass kind of thing. So
I love that guy.
um, I think Tick certainly seems fond of her, but again, it's
How could you not be like a badass chick with swords?
yeah.
Oh, is there anything else you want to say about the chick?
We should say more about the Tick. Um,
Sorry.
well, it just didn't send up comics too. There's one episode that I love especially that sent up 2001: A Space Odyssey. Literally, these monoliths appear and like the Tick and Arthur are on this road trip, and they happen across this place in the middle of like West Virginia or Tennessee, like Hicksville. But all the residents are like super smart. There's like a particle collider around the village because there's this monolith there that's making them smart. It's a total send up a 2001: A Space Odyssey. Okay, it's just hysterical. It's just again, there was no bounds to um, uh, Ben Edlund, who wrote the Tick. I mean, just this, would just send up anything.
And that's the delight of comics. There's no budget.
Yeah, there's no limitation. He did a send up of slasher movies with the Chainsaw Vigilante, and it's just again, and I know we're supposed to focus on comics here, but I really think one of the best cartoons ever based that they did the Tick animated series, which you can see a lot of them on YouTube even for free now. They're just outstanding. And Ben Edlund, who did the comics, was the executive producer. So, a lot of times when you go from the book to a movie or an animated production, a lot of people say, yeah, kind of. The cartoons are absolutely excellent. My daughter and I watched them together several years ago. He did a send up of Dr. Strangelove with this army of ants are getting together and destroying the city, and they literally get this Dr. Strangelove like character in a wheelchair to come in and create this huge magnifying glass to literally fry the ants. It's just it's just great stuff. And again, the other thing I should confess, are we in a confessional?
Yes. That's what
I cosplay the Tick. Okay, I don't know if you know this or not, or if you've seen the picture, but I do a Tick
I
cosplay.
haven't. Can you send it to me so I can?
I will send it to you. But
yes,
it's one of I haven't done it in a while. I need to do it some more. But it's again one of my it's a great cosplay. I've got the antler and the blue, but there's just such a positive energy. You can do a send up of something, and a lot of times it's very negative, and when you're poking fun at something, it's easy to go the negative route. But the tick is just such a positive. He's always got this dumb grin on his face the whole time, like a
I know.
spoon, it's just again, it's just oozing this positive, dumb, let's be frank, energy. But it's positive, and it's just the way that Ben did this was just, again, it was a breath of fresh air, because it would have been so easy to go to the dark side. Let me go to the Star Wars route here, and just, make it a send up with, and really just, drag it to the ground, and so on. So in a way, it's interesting, because the tick not, it pokes fun at, but also celebrates at the same time, comics. And that's not easy to do. I mean, let's be blunt. I mean, how do you poke fun at something, but also, make it positive, and point out the fun in it at the same time?
That is the delightful way to parody something, and that's the way I enjoy a parody way more than
It's the Weird Al method, I would call it. Yeah, it's what Weird Al Yankovic does, if you think about it.
You mentioned that before we started recording, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And Weird Al is, I feel like, who we should all aspire to be.
Yes, I consider to be I consider him to be the Almighty. Well, this was fun. Thank you so much. Again, I hope I tend to talk too much, but, especially when you get some stuff in me here. So, but
that's the beauty of drunk comics. I love getting people drunk and then listening to them ramble. It's amazing. The stuff that comes out is amazing. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you so much, Kelly. Take care.
Yes, thank you.